Jason, thank you so much for joining us on the e-commerce gold podcast today. How are you doing, sir?
Wonderful. Thanks very much for having me. I'm really excited to be here.
Man, it's a privilege. And I was just saying to you that Hexclad has been prominent in all of my feeds, conversations, groups, everywhere that I operate online. There's been an undertone of Hexclad for the last at least 6 months.
Yeah.
Which is just incredible, the penetration that you've got, and I'm in the UK as well, right? Well, you've got Gordon Ramsay as a brand spokesperson, or for want of a better word. So I imagine that the UK are quite warm to Hexclad, but it's just incredible, and yeah, it's really great to have you on the show. But before we get into the brand and the business, can we just understand a bit more about you and your backstory, as far back as you want to take it, really?
Yeah, happy to, Finn. And again, thanks a lot. This is a lot of fun. We're just sort of winding down from a really busy period, and it's good to sort of take a break and reflect. Um, I'm old for the ecom world, right? So most of the people I deal with are decades younger, and so I started my career as a lawyer, as a corporate lawyer, as an M&A lawyer. I worked at one of the biggest firms in the world called Skadden Arps, where I did anything from the bailout of long-term capital management to the digital equipment compact merger, which none of those companies are around anymore, but that's what is the current HP. I worked on the Citigroup Travelers merger. I learned how to do deals. I learned how to get stuff done. I had a partner who I worked for there who every time I left his office, he would always just say, "Just get it done, Jason. Just get it done." And as I work now, that's always in my head. Just get it done. So yeah, I was an M&A lawyer, and then I decided I really liked doing deals, and I wound up on the business side during the dot-com era. And a long story short, I helped build and sell a company in the fintech space, and then I went to work for another fintech company, which I helped build and sell. And then finally, one of the bankers showing me deals had started a really fun boutique investment banking firm, and he enticed me to join and be his number two, and I ran that firm for 11 years. So we did tech M&A for 11 years, a lot of fintech, data analytics, and marketing tech. And so I feel like that experience from the legal side and the financial side and the operating side sort of put me in a position to kind of be like a consultant and be able to. I've seen so many businesses over the years that I feel like I can kind of parachute into any business and add value just based on that training, and that's kind of what happened with Hexclad.
Yeah. I mean, my reference points for your career are basically Suits and The Big Short. So that's about as much as I understand of your backstory. Obviously, we have some kind of legal teams here in the UK, but they're nowhere near as sexy as the American ones are made out to be. Is that anywhere near the truth? How they're portrayed?
It's funny. There's definitely been aspects of like The Big Short. I was around during that era, and I was in fintech, and so there I followed it very closely. I love that movie. Suits, I like the show, but I don't really watch legal shows, or they tend to not be super authentic. Even kind of corporate shows like Succession is an amazing show that people really love. But I see stuff and I see that doesn't if it doesn't suit to my real life experience, it's hard for me. But I understand how people who haven't grown up in that arena find those things really interesting.
Hmm. So I wanted to take the opportunity to talk to you a bit about the way that you've come into e-commerce, because it's not the statistically traditional route. I think e-commerce, when people think about e-commerce, think about generally, young, just out of college people who start doing some drop shipping and then evolve into creating their own products, and that's sort of their first venture into business, whether that's right or wrong. And you've come at it from really the M&A side, the law side, which I imagine are quite process-driven worlds, quite logic-driven worlds, and model-driven worlds, where most of the time a new e-commerce brand, the leader of that brand, might not have that experience. So I just wanted to get your reflection on how it's been different for you, or how you think you've done it differently to maybe the standard e-commerce startup, based on your experience. Like, what have you brought from your old life into
Mhm.
Hexclad?
Look, I think it's important to understand the history of Hexclad and how it all fits, because there's a lot of serendipity in life and business. And Danny Weiner and Cole McRae, the two co-founders of Hexclad, who are still very much involved. Danny's the CEO. Danny and I run the business together. Cole is very strategic. They grew up in the cookware industry, um, and they knew that if they found the right products, they could sell them. And it started out really as a very special pitch. It was a road show. They basically were good at live demonstration sales, kind of like a live infomercial. And they had worked for different cookware companies, decided they were going to go on their own. And their first product was a juicer, which did reasonably well, but didn't have the broad appeal of cookware. And so they went on the road with the cookware, and secured a relationship with Costco in the States, which is a huge retailer. And for a couple of years, although there was always an e-commerce strategy, the roadshow business did so well. That's sort of what they did. Um, and I was very close with both Cole and Danny. Cole and I go back to 1995. And when the business started to take off and I was a banker, I was like, you guys have a valuable business on your hands. And they're like, really? Okay. So, and then when the pandemic hit, um, the online business just grew 5x. I'm like, guys, you guys have something really, really special here. And they said, well, come help us build it. And and I think the highest month in e-commerce sales prior to April 2020 was around seven figures, around a million. And then in April 2020, it was like 5x. I was like, hold on, guys, this is a really incredible opportunity we have here. And how do we properly execute it? And that's, like we said at the beginning, I've prided myself on my execution capability in any business. But I will say it's really fun being involved with an e-commerce business that is in the cooking space, because everybody loves to eat. Everybody loves chefs. I mean, chefs are becoming rock stars these days. I'd rather hang out with some of my chef friends than any musician or Hollywood, actor, actress. I mean, it's so much fun. So you have to look at the evolution of where Hexclad came from. But now, of course, we're an e-commerce business. The vast majority of our revenue is direct to consumer, either on our site. We do well on Amazon. Um, and one of the things you mentioned earlier on, Finn, was about how Hexclad are everywhere now. Um, you know, Up until very recently, I used to joke and say Hexclad was the best kept secret in e-commerce. And then I went out on Twitter, I started tweeting, and then just all of our spend and all of our great branding that we did this year, and TV commercials, and of course Gordon. We're no longer a secret, which is nice. We're actually a lot bigger than almost anyone I kind of talk to these days, which is a lot of fun. But um, we're just having a great time. Danny and Cole gave me a great opportunity to build this thing for them and with them. And I think all of the things that I've done I graduated law school in 1997. So everything I've done since then has kind of lined up for me to really do some special things at Hexclad.
Yeah. So I'm really interested to understand that if these two founders were on a trajectory of success and having great growth, what value did they see in bringing you into the business? Where did they think that you could help them specifically? What areas were they not struggling with, but what did you bring to that business? And also, if you wouldn't mind giving us some overview of, what your role is in the business now, how involved in the business you are. Just give us kind of an idea about how you actually came together.
Absolutely. So currently I'm the president, and I really, like I said, I manage the business day to day in partnership with Danny Weiner, who's co-founder and CEO. We each have our strengths. We overlap in some areas and don't in others. Um, it was very much a startup when I joined. Very few, no accounting team, no e-com team, basically all of the employees were either involved with the Costco Roadshow or logistics. And it became very clear that the massive increase in e-commerce volume was not sustainable with the current team. And I pointed out to them, and they said, "Yeah, well, what's the solution?" And I'm like, "Well, I guess the solution is me coming on board full time back in April 2020, and that's what happens." But to really scale the business, Cole and Danny are incredible business guys and very business savvy, great instincts, great business sense, great at sales and marketing. But every business outgrows the founders in some way. In our case, the founders were able to really pivot and partner with me to run the business together. And I think that could go on for a long time. But some businesses, there's some founders, they don't kind of see the writing on the wall. And so, I think we just got very lucky that Cole and I have been friends for a very long time. I had known Danny for a very long time, and they realized that they needed to level up the business. So the first thing was in 2020, it's like, let's get control of this thing because it was growing so fast, and and capitalize on the dynamics of people being home cooking, etc. And then how do we scale it from there? 2021 was the year that we signed Godon, and so 2020 we had a pop from the pandemic. 2020 that was 2020. 2021 was Godon, but it all starts with a great product. And Danny and Cole sort of had the raw material of the foresight, the judgment to know that they had a great product on their hands. And from there on, it just becomes execution. In 2022, and this gets back to where we started on this, Finn, regarding the visibility of Hexclad and my tweet that I think caught your attention. The goal of 2022 was to really level up all of our e-commerce and marketing, D2C marketing, from our website to our value props messaging to our paid ads. We'd always done well with paid ads because we had a great paid ad of Danny essentially doing the original Costco demo, and it's a great one. I mean, we still are always begging Danny to shoot more because he's so good. Um, but we had that in 2020. It was very demonstrative, and it visually explained the value props, but it wasn't. We never got the messaging totally right until this year about our hybrid technology, about the versatility of the product, and about the durability of the product with a lifetime warranty. And so 2022 was the year to do that. And I mean, I'm really pleased with how it came out. We are sitting here December 20th, and we're up 110% over last year. And we were not small last year. So what all that means is that we were very successful on the e-com and marketing side. There's a lot more that we need to do, but 2023 becomes the year of focusing on scaling our operations to support what we've done on the e-com and marketing side. So that was kind of a long meandering way of hitting some topics that I thought you might find interesting.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Has there been any friction? I mean, you're coming into quite a dynamic environment, it sounds like there, and it almost sounds like you're coming in as the voice of authority and reason. It sounds like there Sorry about
Hey,
that.
sorry.
Sorry, I don't know what. I think it was StreamYard. I don't think it was us.
Yeah, I don't. It might have been me, but
That's all good. Let me redo that question. So it sounds like you sort of came into the business as the voice of reason, and possibly of authority, and oftentimes, just in my experience, building in structure, building in process, building in plans, I guess, can cause friction, especially when people are running fast, breaking things, and trying and moving very quickly. So, was there any friction? Did you have an established framework? Like, how did you manage parachuting into the business?
yeah, it was a bit of a getting to know you process, and so, to some extent, it's every business has its own dynamic. And Cole and Danny and I all knew each other well already, so I was sort of a known quantity. I know Cole a really long time. Um, I think there was a bit of a risk on everyone's part, me joining, but as things evolved, Danny and I, we just work really well together. Um, we've become really close friends too. Just like we were always friends from the beginning, but much closer now. So I think we have a really healthy respect for what each of us brings to the table. And one of the from my career, one of the things that I've pride myself on is being incredibly diplomatic, and seeing both sides to every story, and not acting on emotion. And so if you're able to have that perspective, it's a lot easier to partner with people. And I mean, basically, we're all partners, right? It's Danny, Cole, Gordon, and me. We're the owners of Hexclad. And so we're all incentivized to build the company, and we're all mature enough to know that everyone has a role. Sometimes they overlap. Sometimes we step on one another's toes. But I think 99% of the time, it works just fine. It's the most fun job I've ever had.
Sounds like it. We can see your passion in Twitter. You know, when you tweet and stuff, you can see that you love the brand. Um, So, a couple of financial questions about 2022. This episode is airing early 2023.
Mhm.
So, looking back on 2022, were you profitable in 22? Was that, and if you weren't, was it a choice not to be?
Yeah, our business has always been profitable from day one. We've never raised any outside capital. I'm responsible as president. I'm also the CFO, although I spend most of my time doing non-financial work, more strategy, ecom, operations, marketing in general. We manage to a certain margin, right? We want to be profitable. We are profitable, and it's like we will spend, rather than finding the extra 5 points in EBITDA, we'll spend into a certain margin because we know that's the long-term investment that we need to make. So there's never a world in which we're not profitable. The problem with hyper growth is that even if you are profitable, you're sinking every dollar into product. So being a 9-figure brand and growing 100% means that you're tying up an awful lot of cash in inventory, and which is fine because it's all profitable, but there's that working capital and liquidity that you have to really manage tightly. And so, if anything, we know we're profitable, but we're focusing on growing at a sustainable rate. I mean, we kind of forecasted 70% growth this year, and we're probably going to do, over 110%. When that happens, stuff does start to break. We call it a high class problem, but all of our problems can be solved, fortunately, by having the right people and the right amount of time, because we have so many other things going for us. We have a great product. We have built a great brand, but it's still hard.
Yeah, and running at that level, at that pace, yeah, mistakes cost a lot of money.
Yeah, they sure do. I mean, we ran out of space in the middle of this year, um, about 2 months earlier than we had expected. And we were just like, what are we, you know, what are we going to do? We stood up a 3PL. We do a lot of our own fulfillment, but we stood up a 3PL. Everything always takes longer than you think. But I'm sure that we burned a bunch of money on logistics that had we been better prepared, we wouldn't have burned. But at the end of the day, perfection is the enemy of good. And, we did great. So expecting perfection, you're just going to beat yourself up and probably wind up with a bit of paralysis by analysis. We think our instincts are pretty good, and that gets back to the execution side of things. Like sometimes just making a decision is going to be the right decision. There's degrees of correct sometimes, but waiting around too long for the right decision to hit you, or no decision, is really the worst thing in my eyes.
Yeah. Okay. So I picked up a tweet that you did with a number of points. In order to go in through each of those points, each one could be its own podcast episode. So excuse the briefness on some of these. But I just want to break those down with you and get into the weeds a little bit. So the first point you made was that you got your value props dialed. And you said you have a game-changing product, but when you launched your new site, you hadn't focused on outlining the value propositions. Um, and you only really got the messaging right Q3 2022. That was big for you guys, and you stood up a new site as well. So can you just talk us through that process, so moving from your old site to your new site, and some of the impacts that had for the business?
Yeah, well, it's funny. I had a conversation in early 2022 with a very influential PR agent, and she looked at our site and she said, "I don't understand why your product's special. Like, I know Godon Ramsay is on there, and it kind of looks cool, but it." And I said to myself, "Wait a minute. If you go to our website and you don't know why we're special, that's a big problem. Even though we sell tons of this product, well, it's really an opportunity." So, as we did this major website overhaul, I mean, we basically killed our old site and started from scratch, and we had a lot of people tell us, "Don't do that. You should make incremental changes." But we just sort of were like, we want to just rip the Band-Aid off and get it right. And just that whole process, how we want to represent our brand and how we want to communicate the value, uh, it was just amazing. And we had a bunch of different people involved in it, but I think it was my ability to take from what's in Danny's head and everybody else around Hexclad and say, okay, here's how we write it down, and here's how we execute it. I just really think that was huge for us. What we say in our ads, again, was very visual. We had very nice visuals of the product at work, but really beating people. Marketing is pretty simple messaging, right? You want to keep the message simple, and it was, to simplify it, you have to break it down into simple language. And those value props of us really having our hybrid technology is the first real innovation in cooking since nonstick was created back in the 1950s. And what does that mean? That ability to have a really versatile frying pan, which allows you to get the sear on your proteins with the easy cleanup of nonstick and the durability of cast iron and the ability to use metal utensils, put it in the oven, put it in the dishwasher, have it work on induction. It's like we showed it, but we never really told the story in words properly, I think. And so that was a big part of why we were successful this year.
Yeah, makes a lot of sense. So it was really a whole funnel review, with the website being a piece in that puzzle. You really looked at everything. So what kind of incremental change did that give you on the numbers, on the bottom line? Did you see any kind of real, tangible incremental uplift that you could attribute to those changes?
Well, our Q4 was just absolutely insane. right? And so we were building, we really did try to time everything to kind of build into a crescendo. You know, we were successful all year. Our growth, our numbers were good all year. But like I said, we were targeting 60-70% growth this year. And I think in November, I mean, I think we were one of the biggest sites. We had one of the biggest days on Shopify than probably anyone in the world. I would say certainly in the top 50.
on Black Friday.
Yeah, on Black Friday. That whole month of November, I mean, we went into our Black Friday or November sale planning with a number, and as soon as we launched on November 15th, we're like, we're gonna kill this number. And then we upped it again, and we beat our revised forecast for November before Black Friday even happened. So it's like we just stopped trying to forecast. We just were like, all right, you know, our everything is overloaded, our fulfillment, our warehouse, you know, we're gonna go out of stock right now on December 20th on we're out of stock on a few key items, but we're gonna be out of stock on like half of our SKUs because of what we managed to do here in November and December. So there were a lot of other tactics that we pulled in from the marketing side, but you know the website and the messaging. There's so much that goes into building an efficient e-commerce site, from in-cart upsells to post-purchase upsells to getting your PDPs right to sending traffic to which pages. We really had a very rudimentary site up up until our old site was very rudimentary. We made some changes to it before Black Friday 2021, but we were still, I would say, like a dinosaur in terms of tech stack and all those things. Because 2020, anything worked. If you look at what other cookware brands did in 2020, everyone crushed it alongside of us. 2021, you saw with iOS changes and everything else, and just the changes in the dynamic of the pandemic. 2021, it got harder earlier in the year. We still did really well, but then we got Gordon. And so we rode this wave of the Gordon messaging in late 2021. It was great. It was like, okay, now we've got this. Now we need to really level up. I have a lot of respect for some of these other cookware brands and their marketing prowess. I think they do really, really well. They're good marketers. And like, well, we have a better product. Okay. We have the Michael Jordan of cooking. And now we just need to do all the other things well that these guys do. And so I put together what I call my collection of experts in e-commerce. And I would say you might argue overpaid to have a lot of really good people and agencies around us this year. But when you look back at the performance, we probably underpaid. It seemed like a lot at the time, but just every little tactic from influencer to whitelisting to publisher whitelisting to landing pages, what creative to run, all those things, all year long, we really iterated and strategized about all those things heading into. And by the way, we shot 2 incredible TV commercials and with Gordon, and I'm really proud of them. I just love watching them. And so we went big on TV during the World Series here in the States for baseball. And we just saw like the Google traffic. We just saw the spikes. And I like the joke, we finally got the timing right on something because we launched those spots in October, and then the brand awareness from that. I mean, we would normally have something like 200 people on our site at a certain time of the evening, and World Series TV commercial spot ran, and we had 10,000 on our site. So, you know, all those things sort of moved the needle. We invested in brand awareness. At the beginning of the year, we said, okay, we're going to invest a certain amount of money in brand awareness, and without really knowing where the attribution is going to be. We're very good at attribution for our paid social spend, and we manage our paid social spend very focused on certain metrics like MER and ROAS and things like that. But we said at the beginning of the year, we're going to dump some money into brand awareness, and that's that point about managing to a certain margin. And if I feel like I've got more room in my margin, rather than taking the profit, we're just going to spend into it in brand awareness. That's what we did this year, and thankfully it worked.
Yeah. So you're still building, by the sounds of things. You're still growing. You haven't reached the peak of your addressable markets with the current product range that you have. Is what at a very high level that would say to me. In that you're still finding it quite easy to acquire new customers. I say easy, obviously. All of the things that are going into this make that easy. Um, but you're still confident that you haven't reached the peak of that arch yet in terms of customer acquisition for your existing product set. Like, how big do you think that market is?
Hmm. Hmm. We're not even scratching the surface yet. If you look at big brands, big D2C brands, or just big retail brands, like for example, Yeti. They're great. I just love Yeti. I think they've done an amazing job. They were very similar companies in that they started with a game changer product. Their cooler was different. It was better. So if you listen to their CEO on their analyst calls, their number one growth driver is brand awareness. And we're not small, but they're 10 times the size of us, or something like that. Maybe 7 times the size of us now with our growth. But they are focused on brand awareness, and we are as well. And when it's funny because I'm constantly meeting people who never heard of Hexclad, who should have. So we live in our little ecom ecosystem here, and people sort of get to know who are the players. But there's a huge world out there, and I do when I'm in our warehouse labeling boxes late at night in December, because we just need the help and it's fun to be out there with the team. And I'm seeing all these packages and I'm saying to myself, wow, I can't believe how many people are buying our cookware. But at the same time, I think there's a massive amount of people out there that just they don't know us yet, but they will. On top of that, the kitchen is a huge category. And we don't we think of ourselves as a kitchen innovations company, not just a cookware company. And so we are not going to sell it unless it's innovative. So our pans are obviously very innovative. They're patented technology. Um, we did knives. We did these beautiful Japanese Damascus steel knives. It's very hard to innovate a knife, but what we did was we decided we're going to go the quality route and the aesthetic. So with Japanese Damascus steel, a beautiful green pack of wood handle, we sort of had that building on that elevated experience of our brand known for innovation and quality. We just created the world's best pepper mill, which we're really excited about. It's that product that you didn't know you need until you tried it, and you're like, where has this been all my life? We created our own cutting and chopping board, it's the hybrid because it's both sides each side has a different function. And we're working on a potential game changer kitchen appliance right now, which I can't talk about, but we're hoping that works for us. It's been something we've been working in engineering for some time, and Danny has been spearheading that because Danny really is he's a brilliant mind when it comes to the kitchen. And so we're really, really bullish on that product too. And so I think we have a long runway in terms of new products in the kitchen. And when you build a brand known for innovation and quality, I think you're in a position to be successful.
Hmm. Yeah. So I'm always interested in people's perspective when they have a home run product like the pan,
Mhm.
And when they haven't reached that tipping point of the total addressable market where it becomes quite difficult to scale it, and each customer becomes incrementally more expensive,
Mhm.
why then innovate other products or look for that next product versus, and I'm not saying either way is wrong, I have no
Mhm.
experience of it, but I'm just interested to get your perspective, versus doubling down on the pan market
Mhm.
internationally, or really getting that deep penetration, allocating all capital towards just absolutely winning that market space. I know there's a few reasons that I might bring a lower price point product in, and we've got retained customers as well. But from your perspective, why go broad when you've got a very, very good product and narrow?
I think we're very focused on the LTV of our customer. It comes from probably from my tech days. We were always focused on LTV to CAC, right? So how do we acquire all of our customers profitably, but if I can increase my LTV of that customer, I could actually spend more to acquire them. And I think that's one way that we think about it. Um, we've got a very loyal customer base, people who love our brand, and they're actually asking for more from us. So it's kind of like a no-brainer. For example, our Costco business with the road shows, we have people it's basically a focus group every day in 30 to 50 different Costcos with it's a live demo. People are walking by. Oh, I have those. Oh, we need this. Can you make when is Hexclad going to do this? So we're getting direct feedback every day. For example, our 7-quart deep saute pan, we call it the chicken fryer. It's sold out right now. It was the number one requested item, and just everyone wants it. It's incredible how many of these we sell. They're like $199 product. It's an incredibly versatile stovetop piece, but there are a few key pieces that people just want, or they come by and they let us know. For example, a Dutch oven is a very popular piece, which we haven't done yet because we're not going to do it unless it's special. And we're going to drop that piece in January. So there's a combination of acquiring new customers and then having a larger LTV proposition, and me being around a long time, it enables, and in seeing many dozens and dozens of different business models over the years, it enables us to have a multifaceted approach and not just focused on acquiring new customers. We're very focused on acquiring new customers, but I think we've probably sold to 700,000 individual customers, which is pretty small when you think about the population of the United States, but in the world for that matter. Um, but those are loyal customers that like our products. They love our brand, and they want more Hexclad, and we're going to give it to them.
Yeah, makes sense. And um, just on the price point, I know we're still on question one here of nine. I don't think we're going to get to the end, but just on your price point, then, I will admit I'm not a good chef, and I haven't spent a lot of money on pans. I'm often gifted pans. I don't know if
Mhm.
that's a big market, but in terms of price point, obviously it's a premium product. It's a new innovation. You're not necessarily competing with pans in the traditional sense that you've made a better pan. You're sort of evolving that into something new, a new value proposition above just a pan. If I'm focusing on those products, do you think because of the extent of the demand as you bring these new products out, are you going to keep pushing upstream in terms of your pricing? Are you going to keep pushing that price point up and up and up until you find a point where, or do you know your market and you know
Mhm.
roughly what they're willing to spend, or are you still testing out those things? I'm just wondering how you're working out your price point, and whether you'll keep pushing it because of the demand.
Right. We're pretty simple when it comes to that. We kind of look at our gross margin, and we solve for an overall profitability metric. I think we're fortunate that we can do that. I mean, that's really how Danny and Cole started the business with their with their Costco roadshow. It's sort of like, all right, we know we need to be profitable, so how do we price this product based on our landed cost and what we need to do in terms of commission and margin? And it's always been a very tactical approach in that respect. We do have some thinking to do in terms of pricing and LTV for certain types of customers. The vast majority of what we sell are sets because it's sort of like most people, they cook on more than one pan. They need pans, they need pots, they need a griddle, they need a stir fry. So w- there's a value prop to buying the bundle at a discount to buying the individual pans, and that works really well for us. We we haven't raised prices in what people are calling an inflationary environment for the most part. We've been lucky that we've been able to kind of hold the line on our costs, and we're a premium product, but we want it to be a good value for the customer. And our lifetime warranty is a big part of that. Um, we are messaging an investment in your future. Our pans, if you take care of them, will last forever. So you only buy those from us once. We'll sell you more things, but you only buy those once. So on the LTV of customers who say come in and buy an individual pan, that's a little bit different. It may be that that's all they could afford and they just really wanted a Hexclad pan, and we love that. But it's really about selling sets for us because that's where we can focus on a certain customer acquisition cost that works. And that's where I think we've done really well compared to other D2C brands. Just the fact that we have a high AOV product with good repeat purchasing patterns, it gives us more flexibility on our CAC, and we are first. We can be first order profit. We're always first order profitable for the most part. We can be first order profitable even with it's a considerably higher CAC based on the AOV of some CPG product, right? Some drink or deodorant. There's so many great products out there that I think are really interesting, but the model, with iOS changes and just the spend, it's really hard if you don't have the right AOV, or if you're not, incredible at the marketing. I look at companies like Ridge, who I have just a ton of respect for, and their AOV is considerably lower than us, and they're pushing massive volume at solid margins. Like, those guys are incredible.
We've had
For us,
Sean on
it's
the
it's a
show.
little easier. You had Sean on. For us, it's a little easier because of our higher AOV, but again, it goes back to having a great product. They have a great product. We have a great product. We have more wiggle room in our AOV, um, to acquire customers at a higher rate than the average D2C brand.
Mm. Yeah, and there's an interesting parallel between those two companies, Hexclad and Ridge, in that Ridge are pivoting out of wallets, not out of wallets, but into other spaces. We've seen him release a watch, a pen, and a number of other accessories to try and capture. And he's always talking about being the next Mont Blanc
Hmm.
in order to become a bigger business. And what you said about paraphrasing what you said, but to being not just a cooking company, a kitchen, and maybe even broader, just anything to do with food and beverage. Because I can see a Hexclad barbecue in the future. Who knows? So I just want to push into what you were speaking about there with customer acquisition, because a lot of the listeners, a lot of the guests are still primarily Facebook or Meta in their acquisition, and I imagine the same is true for you. But you've also pushed into television, which is a super interesting one that I don't really understand that much in terms of what parameters you can control with television, what customization per audience you can do. You mentioned the baseball. Are you able to tailor your creative to that audience, and run that just to that audience? Can you just give us some insights into, one, the effectiveness of TV for you, and then maybe how you're running that attribution, understanding that attribution, and finally the creative, what controls you have?
Yes. Let me do a quick bio break first.
Yeah, no worries.
Sorry, I'll be right back.
If I forget to edit this out and you're hearing me blow my nose, I only apologise to you listeners. It's cold season in the UK, but soon I'll be in Bali, so not long left. Oh, jeez. It's
Sorry
usually
about
me,
that. Too
man.
much coffee.
Oh man, I'm the same. I'm usually dying off in the middle of these things. It's all good. Ah, right. I shall recap that question for you.
Yeah, yeah. No, I know the question.
You
If
got
I
it.
might jump in, um,
Please do. Yeah.
TV is a really interesting one. We've been thinking about it for a while through a lot of 2021, and we were probably going to run streaming, just sort of our best creative of Danny, which had always done well on paid social. And then, kind of mid 2021, we said, we've got Gordon. We should do an epic TV commercial. Let's just do it. Let's just let's just do it right. Let's just spend the money, get the right teams. So our creative team at Big Day, our production team at Food Steez, and Danny and other people on our team, we really worked hard at a number of different concepts to highlight why our product is special. In and this goes back to all the value proposition work too for the website and paid ads. It all kind of came together at the same time. We're building our site and we're working on our TV commercial at the same time. So we wanted to do TV for a long time, but we finally were ready to invest and pull the trigger. And we wound up doing two TV commercials at the same time, essentially, with a pretty solid budget. I mean, I think those commercials probably cost us all in close to seven figures, which from a production perspective. But
That's
we just
actually a lot more than I was expecting, to
we
be
just
complete.
we
That's a
just
lot.
wanted to do it right. There's a lot of CGI in those commercials. Those are
Right.
evergreen. They'll last a very long time. I wish we could afford a Super Bowl commercial because I think they would really get eyeballs. I tweeted about this. I found out how much the Super Bowl costs, and we're not ready for that yet.
Well,
But
Gary V says it's the most, and I'm not, I'm not preaching Gary V here. I've grown out of that, but he did say it was the most underpriced attention a couple of years ago. In terms of, you mentioned about, the value you had to invest into your website positioning, value propositions, but then incremental value you saw out of that same equation supposedly work. We don't have the Super Bowl here, but supposedly works in a similar fashion on the Super Bowl in terms of, might cost £1 million a minute or whatever it was
yeah, I
back
think the
3 years
scale.
ago.
I agree with it. I think there's just we just have to be in an order of magnitude higher than we are now. Our marketing budget is pretty big, but I wouldn't want to put that many eggs in that basket yet. Well, 2025 maybe TV commercial for us. But going back to the more basic question, we wanted to do TV. We weren't going to do it if we didn't do it right. And Danny, for example, comes from the entertainment business before moving into cookware, and we're in LA, we're in Hollywood. It's like everyone, we have so many people, so many resources, so much inspiration, access to whomever we want. Like, we're just going to do it and do it well. And TV was just, it was just on the roadmap as really another channel. Facebook, TikTok, Google, where are you going to go to extend your reach and acquire customers? And I've talked. There were a bunch of other brands doing streaming through, say, Tatari or another one of those services. It's like everyone was telling us you got to be there,
Mm.
and so we took a bit of a leap in doing it. But I feel like it's been incredibly valuable to us. I think attribution is hard for it, but perfection is the enemy of good, and and no data is perfect anyway. Most data is severely flawed. And so if you live and die by complete like myopic analysis of data, you just decisions. For example, I've seen a few people tweet about this recently. I think Sean from Ridge did. There are so many people who would tell you to stop spending on Facebook if your ROAS is below 1, because you're theoretically losing money on every dollar. Why would you do that? Someone who I respect a lot, who does work for us, tried to convince me of that 2 years ago. And I'm like, this doesn't make sense. This is sort of when I was still really learning. Um, and that's the flaw in statistics. You just can't just blindly follow. You have to really think outside the box in many directions. And so for us, it was like we just feel like we need to do TV for our brand, and the attribution that we get from streaming or wherever else, it's not good. It's not good. We actually we so what do? You do post purchase surveys. We do a QR code on our streaming spots now to see how many scans, and you take that data, that very imperfect data, and draw conclusions on it. And based on what's happened here in November and December, it seems like we made the right bets.
Yeah. No one's scanning QR codes on TVs. Surely no one's doing
There
that.
there definitely there definitely are some, and what it does
Really?
is, it's just like, look, we look at our 1-day click ROAS and we think about what do we target to generate a certain MER. That's the question that we ask all the time. It's not really solvable, but you could sort of make judgment calls on that basis. It's the same with the QR codes, or anything else that you use. The same with the post-purchase surveys. You get some data that you can you can draw conclusions on it, and people do scan it.
Mm, fair enough. Yeah, I have my own opinion on TV beyond the advert itself, in that I think it's a fantastic form of signaling, and ultimately, I think that's kind of what the Super Bowl is too. Is that you're investing, and you see it in nature in some ways. The typical example is obviously the peacock. The peacock's feather, from an evolutionary standpoint, for effectiveness as a peacock, performs no function, but in
Mhm.
terms of signaling, performs every function. Arguably, is its best feature in terms of its continued survival as a species. But if you were to put it on paper, it doesn't benefit the peacock in terms of its physical day-to-day activities. I think TV's the same. I think when you see something on television, the status increases in your mind. TV, I think, still maybe from a decade or 2 decades ago, in people's mind is embedded as only the top brands play here, whereas any brand can play on Facebook. And I think that brings an element of gravitas. And I think the next level up is something like the Super Bowl, where, despite the message, despite the fallout from that message, just simply signaling that your brand, and you're investing in your brand in this space, I think to a consumer, subconsciously does quite a lot. And I'm a big believer in TV advertising, especially the new opportunities that are coming out with things like Netflix.
You make a great point there, Finn, and also I just think there's reach that you get from TV. You're reaching. I totally agree with that elevation of the brand. Like you're in the big leagues when you can, you're in the Premier League when you can do TV, but I think you're just reaching different people as well. Not everyone has their head in their phone all the time or on Instagram, Facebook, TikTok. A lot of people do, but our demo is very wide. You could argue our demo is sort of 35 to 65 in some ways. You know, a lot of those folks are not, they're just not in their phone all day long, and they do watch TV, and even if it's streaming. So like I said earlier, it's just another channel for us. It's just another marketing channel, another marketing tactic. And we're thrilled that it's done well for us. And I think we'll definitely continue to spend a significant budget there next year.
Awesome. Okay, so bringing this towards sort of wrapping up, I wanted to talk to you a bit about 2023. And you've got this runaway freight train, all brakes are off, it sounds like at the moment, which is fantastic. So, what does 2023 look like for you in order of priorities? And what are some of the holes you need to plug in the business to help you reach? Well, first, what's the by this time 2023? If we were having this conversation again in 2023, where is Hexclad financially,
Mm-hmm.
and in terms of product SKUs, and what does Hexclad look like, and then what are the steps that you need to do to get there?
Yeah, we rolled out a lot of new products throughout the year this year, and so we expect a number of them to really gain traction next year. We're working on, I think, every other month dropping something new. We also have, like I mentioned, this game-changing kitchen appliance that we're working on. But we have to level up our operations to catch up with our growth. We've been trying every year. We've been trying. We just constantly outpace our growth. Our growth outpaces our operation. So by building out our marketing team, it's going to allow Danny and I to focus more on leveling up all other aspects of our operation, whether it be budgeting and planning, fulfillment, supply chain. A big part of next year is just going to be like, how do we make enough product? Because we've scaled so rapidly, it's not easy to do. So we do have a few awesome people joining our marketing team. We have a head of growth coming on board, and three other really experienced, hardworking killers, marketing killers joining the team, which I'm really glad that this year we've really relied on agencies because we didn't want to make mistakes and hire the wrong people. The idea was we're just going to pay the experts, and we're going to learn from them, and it worked. And almost all those agencies, if not all of them, still have a role with us going forward because we love working with them. They've added tremendous value, but we're building out our marketing team, and a lot of these names will be announced in the next couple of weeks. At the same time, they'll have the opportunity to focus on some of the things that Danny and I are really in on the day-to-day on, and we can like step back and look more strategically at our international expansion, and then just leveling up our operations. Things like having really daily profitability, just really strong visibility into production orders, demand planning. When you reach a certain size and scale, these things become massive problems if you let them get out of control. And we were fortunate this year. Every year we seem to run out of cookware mid-December. And this year we thought for sure we wouldn't. And we did again. So there's a lot there to figure out. You've got to finance all that. You've got to fulfill all of that. Luckily, we've done a really nice job. I'm really proud of what we did on the marketing side this year. And there are a lot of other areas in the organization that we need to help catch up. And so from my perspective, that's really the goal. We're going to continue to grow really fast. I wouldn't mind if it was a little slower, but if if we're going to double again next year, we'll figure it out. We always do. But we know that we've reached a point in our operations where they require as much, if not more, focus than sales and marketing. This year was the year of sales and marketing, and 2023 is going to be the year of operations in many respects, operations and global expansion.
Yeah. Just circling back and rewinding towards you can see the agencies that you're involved with because they interact with your tweets and in our little ecosystem. It's obvious who you've chosen. And I must say, I mean, you've gone premium. You've gone for the best, in my opinion, anyway. So it's no wonder that you've done very well. And I'm always interested when people then bring that in house. And I think oftentimes that is the right thing to do if you have the capital to do it. I can't wait for you to announce who these people are. Hopefully, I'll already know a few of them. Um, so international expansion. Do you? I don't know much about your manufacturing. You in-state manufacturing? You outsourcing manufacturing overseas? What's the current setup?
We manufacture in China. We manufacture in Slovenia. We're looking into some manufacturing in Mexico. Our pans are quite hard to make.
Hmm.
They take a lot of skill, and one of the biggest issues we would have is uh, really teaching people to do it, and building manufacturing capabilities in different regions are things. This is sort of on our roadmap. We're actively analyzing a lot of these things here, but we have a really great partnership with our manufacturer, our main manufacturer for our cookware. We've grown up together as an organization with them. They were quite small when we found them, and they found us. And we've gone from a half a container of cookware to start to we sold probably 150 plus containers of cookware in November. So that's a massive ramp, a massive scaling.
Mm,
We're very fortunate to have an excellent partner
mm.
on that.
Yeah, I just it makes me think of you're talking about obviously maturing the brand, maturing the business in terms of some of the other operations, and Taylor Holiday when he talks about anti-fragile businesses and having one more than one means of accessing your manufacturing, just rings so true. We learned a lot through COVID about especially shipping from overseas, and it sounds like you weathered that storm fairly well, but others didn't. So I'm just interested if you are going to push internationally, that market, your total addressable market, just it gets wildly big. Um, and based on the growth you've already had, like it's almost overwhelming. You're almost, I don't know whether I'd rather be a brand struggling for growth or a brand growing as hard and fast as you are, but I imagine it brings a similar level of stress
Hmm.
in either case. Okay, cool. Um, so you're a deals man. Your career, it sounds like you've just mastered the deal, and that's fantastic. Do you think you'll be doing any M&As in 2023 in cookware space, whether that be communities, smaller businesses? Do you think that you'll look at that as a possible channel for you to go and acquire other smaller brands or even brands in a different space that maybe own that audience?
Our organic growth is so strong that I don't particularly see any fantastic M&A opportunities for us because our product is so special. There are We're very focused, in addition to operations, on content next year. I think it's pretty clear that best in class consumer brands need to be really have a strong focus on content. And for example, I like what Ridge did acquiring Everyday Carry. There's so much great content out there uh, in the cooking world and build community. I'm very focused on building community next year around our brand. And so if there's a strategic or play in that respect to help us, we would consider it. But I think just sort of keeping up with our own organic growth Eventually there'll be some kind of deal for Hexclad. Maybe we're an IPO at some point when those markets come back. But, in the meantime, I always tell everyone, if you're growing and profitable, you'll only be worth more later. And so that's the way we look at the future of Hexclad. We're growing, we're profitable, and we're having fun every day. I don't know what I would do if I wasn't running this fun business. And I think I've got, another 5 years here, and then we'll reevaluate.
5 years, huh? It's a long time for someone like you. It's a long time in the game. Cool, man. Well, look, it's final couple of questions here. Have you had any major site issues? This is a sponsored question. Have you had any major site Shopify issues in terms of problems on the website?
We find Shopify to be pretty reliable, and so I don't think we have. I think we've been pretty fortunate on that. I mean, we definitely, as our traffic grows, need to be more vigilant about it. I hired a CIO earlier this year. He oversaw the website build with Van Group, who built it with us. And so he's definitely thinking about the long term and the increase in traffic on our site and how to manage things. But so far, so good.
Okay, good. Well, should you ever need anything, Rewind is the application of choice for most Shopify merchants. Backs up the store every single day. CrossFit Hamptons, talk to me, because you may or may not know this, but I am deeply embedded in the CrossFit community.
Cool,
In there.
Cool.
Are you a big fan of the CrossFit?
CrossFit's fun. I've sort of dabbled in all kinds of different fitness arenas, from Ironman, marathon, bodybuilding when I was a kid. CrossFit is just very versatile. I do like a lot of MMA training now just because it's fun. I don't spar. I just work on technique and things like that. But I like efficient workouts, 30 minutes, get it done. CrossFit's good for that. So yeah, I don't have time to hit the CrossFit gym, but I do CrossFit style interval and high intensity interval training, and it was fun for a few years to learn all the it's very diverse array of techniques in CrossFit, which I rather enjoyed. I'm getting a little older now. I got to be careful with my body though, so I keep
Scale
things
for life.
scaled
Don't
down.
give me that. Don't give me
down.
that.
Yeah.
You're fine. Well, you've just made it onto my hit list of people that I tag on Twitter, including the head of marketing at CrossFit, Matt from Huron, Rad, the CrossFit shoe brand. There's a few of us, and we post a challenge each month on and film it and put it on Twitter. So guess
All
what?
right, my goal is to be able to do Murph this year.
Oh man, that's a serious goal.
I've done it before, but it's been a few years, so I
do it weighted, proper Murph, full Murph.
My goal is to do Murph without the 20-pound vest.
Yeah, I was going to say that's one way to just knacker your joints real quick. Yeah. Hey, I'll join you on that. You let me know when you're doing your attempt.
Sounds good. They do it here in the States on Memorial Day in May, so I've got about a little under 6 months to get fit again.
Any traveling in 2023? Will you be leaving the States for any reason at all, do you think? If so, where?
We've got a lot going on in the UK and in Europe right now, so I'm actually probably going to be in London January, second week in January, and London, other places in Europe. I prefer to be here. You can see this right here. This is really my happy place, but there's going to be some travel, yeah.
For sure. Hit me up if you are in London and you have a minute for a coffee or lunch. And if you get over to the other side of the world, I'll be there as well later in the year. It's been an absolute pleasure. I really appreciate you taking the time. Genuinely, it's really we're a smallish podcast and we've got very niche listeners, but I think they'll find this incredibly valuable, and it's great to hear an incredible success story from a genuinely nice guy. So thank you very much for taking the time.
My pleasure. Thanks so much for the invite. It was really fun, and I look forward to keeping in touch.